You know what blows my mind? We're living in an age where kids' movies are tackling existential loneliness so profound that their main characters are literally begging aliens to abduct them.
That's such a fascinating observation about this film. The way they've woven deep themes of isolation and belonging into what could have been just another space adventure really caught me off guard.
Well, let's dig into what makes this story so unique. Here's an 11-year-old orphan, voiced brilliantly by Jonas Kibrab, who feels so disconnected from Earth that he's actively seeking extraterrestrial intervention. That's some pretty heavy emotional territory for an animated film.
The choice of Kibrab for the role was really inspired. The way he captures both vulnerability and determination in Elio's character adds so many layers to those lonely moments.
You know what's interesting? The film actually mirrors some pretty significant statistics about children in non-traditional family structures. We're seeing more kids than ever being raised by extended family members. And the story of Elio and his Aunt Olga really taps into that reality.
That's a really good point about the changing family dynamics. How do you think Zoe Saldana's performance as Aunt Olga contributes to that narrative?
Well, Saldana brings this fascinating military precision to the role, which creates this perfect tension between duty and emotional connection. But what really caught my attention was how they used the clone subplot as this brilliant metaphor for identity and acceptance.
That clone element definitely adds an interesting psychological layer to the story. It's almost like a sci-fi version of how kids test boundaries with their caregivers.
Exactly. And speaking of testing boundaries, let's talk about Brad Garrett's Lord Grigan. The way they positioned this intergalactic warlord as both a threat to peace and a struggling father is pretty sophisticated storytelling for a family film.
The parallel between these two family dynamics really drives home the universal nature of these relationship struggles, doesn't it?
You know, it reminds me of some recent studies about how children process complex emotions through storytelling. The whole communiverse concept serves as this elaborate metaphor for finding your place in an increasingly interconnected world.
Though I have to say, it feels like they could have pushed those metaphors further. The resolution seemed a bit too neat for such complex themes.
That's a fair criticism. Like, consider how they handled the friendship between Elio and Glorden. While it's genuinely touching, there was potential for a deeper exploration of how shared outsider experiences can bridge even the widest gaps. In this case, literal light years.
The visual design of all those different alien species was incredible, though. It really emphasized the message about diversity and acceptance.
Well, here's what I find particularly relevant about that aspect. In an era where kids are increasingly connected to global communities through technology, the film's message about finding understanding across vast differences feels especially timely.
So, do you think the 6.5 out of 10 rating really captures the film's impact, considering all these layers we've discussed?
You know what? I think that rating reflects its position as a solid, but not groundbreaking entry in the animated film landscape. While it doesn't push boundaries the way some recent animated features have, it still manages to address some pretty profound themes about belonging and family in a way that resonates with both kids and adults.
That's such a thoughtful way to look at it. Even if it didn't completely revolutionize the genre, it's still contributing something meaningful to the conversation about how we help children process complex emotions.
And maybe that's the real value here. Creating a space where families can talk about these big feelings of disconnection and belonging. In a world where kids are increasingly dealing with complex family structures and social pressures, having these conversation starters is pretty valuable, even if the package they come in isn't perfect.
You've been listening to Movies First.
Available at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or your favourite podcast player. You can also stream on demand at Bytes.com.
This has been another quality podcast production from Bytes.com.